What's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, we basically got confirmation that Antoine Vaillant is going to be competing in this weekend's Chicago Pro. So we got the competitor list yesterday, well, a couple days ago for the Chicago Pro, and it wasn't looking like a very deep lineup. So I was kind of wondering if after this past weekend's Vancouver Pro, if we would see maybe Ian jump in this lineup or Antoine jump in this lineup to try to get that Olympia qualification. Well, we got confirmation today that Antoine is going to be doing that show. He put up this post on Instagram saying that this was the end of the peak week for him, which obviously peak week is the week leading up to a show, and the show that it's leading up to for him is the Chicago Pro. So he says peak week almost coming to an end, 2 days out, grateful to be here. So Antoine is going to be in the Chicago Pro lineup, which I think gives him a really good shot at winning based on who we've seen in this lineup so far. I think Antoine is definitely one of the better names in there, especially considering how close it was between him and Ian at Prejudging in Vancouver, and Ian being one of the better bodybuilders that was actively competing. I think Antoine has positioned himself as a favorite for this show, so I think that makes the Chicago Pro a little bit more exciting. But again, I'm assuming we're probably going to see an updated list here in the next day or so with maybe some more names added that were not on that original draft of the competitor list that we got a couple days ago. And we also know that Ian won't be doing it, so we won't be getting to see the Ian versus Antoine rematch, at least in the near future. But maybe if Antoine qualifies for the Olympia, we'll get to see that rematch there. Now, next up in the news, a lot more Michal Krizo news. So Michal Krizo, he's been kind of the talk of the bodybuilding industry over the past couple of days. Pretty much everybody has been talking about the fact that he made the switch over to the IFBB Pro League from the IFBB Elite Pro. And I also noticed that on Instagram, he changed his handle. So his handle used to be IFBB Elite Pro Michal Krizo with like some underscores in there. And he recently just changed it to say IFBB Pro Michal Krizo. Krizanik is now his username. So he took out the Pro League, and it just says IFBB Michal Krizo Krizanik. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So he came over to the USA after making the switch, and the first thing he did was go to New York. He trained at Bev's gym. Then we also got to see some pictures of him posing for Steve Weinberger, the head judge, at the Olympia. He's like the biggest judge in the IFBB. And Krizo did some posing for him there in New York, which I thought was pretty interesting. And you can also see when he's posing for Steve, the picture that he posted was that front double, and I've always thought that the front double was one of his most impressive poses. Very dominant pose for him, and a very commanding stage presence when he hits that front double, probably because of his height, his size, his shoulder width. Just very commanding pose for Michal Krizo. But then shortly after that, he's now in Las Vegas, and he's really doing the rounds right now. So he was training at Flex Lewis's Dragon's Lair gym, and then Milos Sarshev posted some pictures with Michal, and he says that Michal is the real deal. He says the hype is real, and seeing Krizo in person kind of confirmed to him that he is the real deal. And as you guys know, Milos is one of the better, more well-known coaches / gurus in bodybuilding right now. So for him to say that about Michal Krizo, I think says a lot. And I think, it's very confirming that, seeing Michal pose for Steve Weinberger, the head judge, seeing Michal pose for a guy like Milos, and for Milos to say he's impressed, I'm kind of curious what Steve Weinberger thought, but Milos said he was impressed. And then you saw these pictures of him hitting, again, that front double bicep with Dennis Wolf. And as you guys know, Dennis Wolf is no small guy. Even though now he's kind of in his retirement, he's downsized a lot from where he was as a pro. Seeing Michal Krizo stand next to him, he looks significantly bigger. And Dennis is a taller guy, too, so that kind of goes to show how tall Michal Krizo is and how interesting that might be when he makes his debut in the IFBB. Then you also got a full posing video from Michal Krizo at that Dragon's Lair gym. So I'm kind of curious also what else he's going to do while he's here in the States. And I talked to Michal today, and he's not doing the Prague show. So even though he signed this deal, whatever this deal was, with the people behind the Prague show, EVLS, he says he's not doing Prague, and likely the show that he will be doing won't be until October in Europe. Now, I asked him specifically if he was going to be doing the Prague show, and he said no. And the Prague Amateur is what's coming up very soon, but there is the Prague Pro at the end of October. So kind of what I'm curious about here is whether or not they're going to make Michal Krizo compete in the NPC. And I'm also curious what, if any, conversations he's had with the Manions about potentially just going straight into the IFBB, because I think that is a possibility. I don't know exactly what the rules are with this whole split. The split happened in 2016 between the two IFBBs. And my understanding was that Michal Krizo held an IFBB Pro card before the split in 2016. But when they split, he chose to stay with the Elite Pro. So whether or not he would have to go back and actually earn a pro card in the IFBB Pro League, I'm not entirely sure, and I'm wondering now if he's not even going to have to do that, because honestly, it does seem like it would be kind of silly to make him go back and compete as an amateur when he's been competing as a pro this whole time in the IFBB Elite Pro and winning all the biggest titles multiple times. And if he technically held that pro status before the split, you could make a pretty sincere argument for him not having to re-earn it. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. We're seeing all these pictures, we're seeing all these videos, we're seeing Michael make actual progress towards becoming an IFBB Pro League competitor. And now that he's walking the walk and not just talking the talk, because in the past, like I said, he's called out a lot of current IFBB pros. And again, the thing that everybody went back to was, well, if you really believe you're better than them, then come prove it in the IFBB. And now that he's doing that, and it seems like a very real possibility, we could see him on the Olympia stage this year. Because with the Olympia being in December, the cutoff for qualification isn't until November 20th, 2022. So if Michael did do a pro show, and I'm thinking it could still be that Prague Pro in October because that's really the only show I'm seeing on the schedule. If he did that show and won it, he would be qualified for the Olympia. So if he does make it to this year's Olympia, I think that's going to be one of my favorite storylines to follow going into it. But I'm curious, where do you guys think he's going to land? He looks really good on his own, but how do you think he's going to look next to guys like Nick Walker, Hunter Labrada? And the call-out that I would really like to see, him being such a big dude, is Michal Krizo next to Big Ramy on the Olympia stage. And speaking of Nick Walker, a guy that Michal Krizo has called out a couple of times, Nick Walker posted a physique update today at 290 pounds. Obviously, in the very beginning stages of his prep for this year's Olympia. But with those images of Michal Krizo fresh on your mind, looking at this update from Nick Walker, where do you think Nick Walker would fare against Michal Krizo? They're two very different physiques. They're both mass monsters for their height. But you saw that picture of Krizo next to Dennis Wolf, and Dennis Wolf is over 6 foot tall, and Michal Krizo is a lot bigger than him. How would he look standing next to Nick Walker? Typically, bodybuilding's been a sport where the shorter guys tend to fare better because it's easier to fill out their frames and have a proportional-looking physique. So I think Krizo versus Walker would be an interesting comparison too. And then another interesting part about that update that Nick Walker posted was one of the comments down there. Blessing Awodabu commenting, and I don't know if this was sarcastic or not, I'll leave that up to you guys. He says, "You got this, Nick. You will win the 2022 Mr. Olympia, no cap. Trying to motivate you, kid." And Nick does not respond to that comment. As you guys know, at the New York Pro, after his win, Blessing Awodabu took the mic and called out Nick Walker. So I'm assuming this was not a genuine comment that he thought Nick was going to win, because he said very clearly at the New York Pro that he's going to beat Nick at the Olympia. And the final story that I have for you guys today. Today is the first day of the Chicago Pro. You had 212. The 212 prejudging just happened. And the top 4 looks to be Bo Lewis, Peter Costella. You also had Fabricio Moraia in that top 4. And Derek Oslin was in there as well. So to me, it looked like Bo Lewis. Dedrick Bo Lewis is looking to take that show. He's the guy in the middle with the purple posing trunks on the left-hand side of the middle. Then, of course, you'll have the Men's Open show tomorrow. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of the 212 category so far at the Chicago Pro. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like, a thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. If you have not subscribed yet already, click that bell notification icon if you have not clicked it yet. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.